For over 2 decades now, Universal Pictures has released several acclaimed and respected films for their specialty label Focus Features. They have prided themselves in getting top filmmakers and acquiring movies that manage to find appeal with both awards voters and the general public. This was not Universal's first stab at a specialty unit, as they previously had Gramercy Pictures, but that would be sold off to Barry Diller. Universal then decided to start a new one originally named Universal Focus. That first release was the British film Billy Elliot, which was produced by working title division of Universal. The movie was highly acclaimed and became a decent-sized hit, as audiences warmed to its story of a boy who develops an interest in ballet. Around this time, Universal's then parent company Vivendi would acquire the French film producer Studio Canal, which would go on to provide several movies for Focus. One of them was David Lynch's Mulholland Drive, which originally began life as a potential television series for ABC. After the pilot was not picked up, Lynch decided to make it a movie instead, and Studio Canal gave him the money to film more scenes. The film's American release was originally intended to go out under Focus, but Universal Pictures decided to handle it themselves, although Mulholland Drive feels like it would have been more at home with Focus. The film was widely acclaimed, and Lynch would receive an Oscar nomination for Best Director. In early 2002, USA Films was sold to Vivendi, and the expectation was that it would take control of Focus. However, shortly after that, Universal acquired another indie film distributor, Good Machine, and decided to merge Universal Focus, USA Films, and Good Machine to create Focus Features. Good Machine co-founders David Lind and James Schamus were then put in charge of Focus. One of the first successes on this newly named Focus was Todd Haynes' drama Far From Heaven, which was praised for its themes, performances, and the way it paid homage to the work of Douglas Sirk. They would also release the Holocaust drama The Pianist, which would receive 7 Oscar nominations and win for Best Actor, Director, and Adapted Screenplay. The following year, Focus would get another Best Picture nomination for Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation. In addition to Coppola winning an Oscar for the screenplay, the movie would do very well at the box office. Around that time, the non-linear saga 21 Grams would also do well and score Oscar nominations for Naomi Watts and Benicio del Toro, while Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was a critical and commercial hit and led to Charlie Kaufman winning the Best Original Screenplay Oscar. The Spanish-language film The Motorcycle Diaries, about a pre-revolutionary Che Guevara, was also very well received and a box office success. Of course, not every Focus Features release found an audience or awards attention. The period film Vanity Fair, starring Reese Witherspoon, was seen as a possible Oscar player before its release, but it would receive mixed reviews, disappointing box office, and no major nominations. However, thanks to their budgets and relationships with international partners, Focus is often able to survive a film that does not take off, especially since the success will often be around the corner. The Constant Gardener, an adaptation of the John le Carré novel, was one such success, with Rachel Weisz winning a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for her performance. Pride and Prejudice, based on the classic book by Jane Austen, also performed very well with audiences, and Jim Jarmusch's Broken Flowers, starring Bill Murray, was a respectable hit with the indie crowd. A Focus film that would get a lot of attention was Brokeback Mountain. With its romance between 2 cowboys, it generated a lot of discussion at a time when the United States was still far behind on gay rights. There were unsurprisingly those outraged by the film's content, while it was acclaimed for the sensitivity Ang Lee brought to the subject matter. The movie was predicted to win the Oscar for Best Picture, especially after winning the Directors Guild, Producers Guild, and Writers Guild awards, along with other top honors. That Oscar buzz would propel the film to Focus Features' best grosses at the time, so I'm sure the studio did not mind the publicity generated by its story. While it would win for Best Director, Adapted Screenplay, and Original Score, Brokeback Mountain would lose the Best Picture Oscar to Crash, which was seen as a major and surprising upset and one people still look back on with disappointment. Even with its attention towards specialty films, Focus has also sought to release more mainstream genre titles, which is what led to Rogue Pictures, a label created specifically for those types of films. While it only lasted 4 years under Focus, Rogue did release the hit British comedies Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, which led to a long working relationship with Edgar Wright. Back to the prestige front, Atonement was another Best Picture nominee for the studio, receiving acclaim for its handling of a decade-spanning story. They would additionally release David Cronenberg's crime film Eastern Promises in the United States, and Gus Van Sant's Harvey Milk biopic Milk, which was nominated for Best Picture and won Oscars for its screenplay and Sean Penn's performance of the gay rights activist. Focus looked to expand in the late 2000s to release more comedies and even animated films. Martin McDonagh's In Bruges received a lot of attention for its wild crime story and profanity-laced screenplay, and the Coen brothers would score another hit with Burn After Reading. A comedy they spent $10 million acquiring at the Sundance Film Festival, beating several other bidders, was Hamlet 2. However, it received only okay reviews and not many went to see it. A major partner for Focus Features would be the stop-motion animation studio Laika. They signed a deal to release their movie Coraline, which would become one of the most successful stop-motion animated films ever thanks to its creepy imagery, and has remained a favorite for many since its release. It would also lead to Focus releasing Laika's next 3 movies, Paranorman, The Box Trolls, and Kubo and the Two Strings. Another dark animated film picked up by Focus was Shane Acker's computer-animated 9. With its PG-13 rating and fitting release date of September 9, 2009, they hoped to attract a more adult audience to it, but the movie ended up with underwhelming numbers. Best Picture nominations would continue with the Coen Brothers' A Serious Man and the lesbian love story The Kid's Alright, while the interest in appealing to wide audiences would influence some of the films released by them in the 2010s. Examples of this include the action movie Hannah, the apocalyptic comedy Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, and the rom-com Admission. They also released Wes Anderson's critically acclaimed coming-of-age comedy Moonrise Kingdom and continued that partnership with Edgar Wright for The World's End, the conclusion to his and Simon Pegg's Cornetto trilogy. Universal wanting them to release more mainstream fare led to a major change at Focus too. 11 years after James Schamus was named CEO, he was replaced with Peter Schlegel, who had recently run Film District, which specialized primarily in horror and action films. Universal wanted some of that Focus, and a few of the films originally greenlit by Schlegel at Film District would even be transferred to Focus. The Gramercy Pictures label was revived to release some of these, while others, like That Awkward Moment, were released under the Focus name. They were even originally going to release 50 Shades of Grey, but Universal decided they would handle that themselves. Not say prestige films were abandoned. The Stephen Hawking biopic, The Theory of Everything, added yet another Best Picture nomination to the Focus Features library, and other prestige biographical films like Suffragette and The Danish Girl were also released by Focus. However, Universal would end up disappointed with Focus's output on the Schlegel, and he was replaced in 2016 by Peter Kujawski, who, funnily enough, got his start in the film industry as James Schamus' assistant. So Focus returned to what it originally set out to do, which was release smaller, prestigious films, although it would take a while for them to find their commercial footing again. Despite strong reviews, Kubo and the Two Strings earned underwhelming numbers and led to the end of their distribution deal with Laika. Loving, Nocturnal Animals, and A Monster Call similarly got good reviews, but disappointed during their theatrical runs. Then there was The Book of Henry, which was destroyed by critics, and even though the director had previously made Jurassic World, audiences mostly ignored it. Things would eventually pick up with Sofia Coppola's The Beguiled, the action movie Atomic Blonde, the period drama Victorian Abdul, and especially the Winston Churchill World War II drama Darkest Hour, which was a big hit and received an Oscar nomination for Best Picture and a Best Actor win for Gary Oldman. Focus also got a Best Picture nod for Paul Thomas Anderson's Phantom Thread, and the following year they had Spike Lee's BlacKkKlansman, a summer hit that would score a Best Picture nomination and Lee's first Oscar in the Adapted Screenplay category. A major box office success for Focus would be the film version of the popular television series Downton Abbey. It was able to attract longtime fans of the show and even curious newcomers and was a sizable hit. Of course, like every other film distributor, they had to face the pandemic. Some of the films go straight to video on demand as a result, and then when theaters reopened, the audience who the films typically cater to were the most reluctant to return to theaters. Promising Young Woman did score Best Picture nod during peak COVID, as did Kenneth Branagh's Belfast the following year. Meanwhile, Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho was one such film that you need to put a COVID asterisk on, as it might have gotten more viewers in non-pandemic times, and Robert Eggers' Viking movie The Northman did not make its money back in its theatrical run. Todd Field's Tar, starring Cate Blanchett as a scandalous conductor, received massive acclaim and did particularly well in limited release, but struggled to find a sizable audience when it expanded wide. Nonetheless, the Oscar nominations probably got it some extra viewers on VOD. Then next Best Picture nominee, The Holdovers, did do solid business and seems destined to become a new Christmas favorite for many, and Focus would reteam with Wes Anderson for Asteroid City, which performed nicely. There have been recent films that did not interest a lot of viewers during their theatrical releases, like the critically lambasted Amy Winehouse biopic Back to Black, the horror comedy Lisa Frankenstein, Ethan Coen's road trip comedy Drive Away Dolls, Pharrell Williams' Lego animated Piece by Piece, and the motorcycle gang movie The Bike Riders, the latter of which they picked up after it was removed from Disney's schedule. However, Peter Kujawski has said that VOD has helped a lot of their films, even when seen as underperformers, so it's entirely likely their recent slate has managed to break even when all the numbers added up. Focus did recently distribute Conclave, which found appeal among several viewers with its feuding Cardinals. They also produced Robert Eggers' remake of Nosferatu, which attracted a lot of horror fans and became one of their biggest hits to date. As Focus looks to the future, their interest in funding auteur projects and films of intriguing premises remains. Coming up, they have Wes Anderson's new movie, The Phoenician Scheme, Yorgos Lanthimos' dark comedy, Begonia, Ethan Coen's detective film, Honey Don't, Chloe Zhao's Hamnet, starring Paul Mescal as William Shakespeare, and a third Downton Abbey movie. Focus Features will often put out something interesting, and it's definitely become a valuable part of Universal Pictures, allowing them to release films that might not fit with their usual fare. See you next time.